Maligayang araw everyone. I am Ronel Barrion from BSED Science. We're going to discuss all about the objectives of the sport volleyball. Alright, so let's proceed. Volleyball seems like a simple game of hitting a ball over the net and keeping it from hitting the court and sand on your side of the net. In reality, those two goals are the main objectives of volleyball. Doing it, however, involves elements that separate the good teams from the average ones. So let's dig deeper on what are the objectives of this sport, volleyball. So the first one is gain and maintain control. So ball control in almost everything in volleyball. Even when the ball is going back and forth over the net, a good clip, team still rely on good ball handler to get digs and ups so they can stay in system and launch high quality attacks. Winning a point means being able to serve, which can lead to another form of control. A team can run points from the service line, including aces they aren't returned at all. Get those points as well as in momentum. So that is for the gain and maintain control. The second objective is making the points. Set are won by the team that first scored 25 points, and matches are usually played in best 3 out of 5 format. The service is kill, a block that lands on the other team's side of court, or an error all count for points. In theory, a team could win a match without completing a single kill of its opponents, may constant errors such as net violations or hitting a ball out of bounds. Regardless of how it happens, the object is always impose your offensive will on the other side while keeping them a balance with solid defense. Okay, that is for making the points. The next one is the joy of teamwork. So that is the third one of the objective of the sport volleyball. So good teams typically display a high level of communication and teamwork. A team setter, hitters, and defensive specialists need and effectively work together to optimize their 3 allotted contacts. Often, poor communication results are so important to the sport of volleyball because they are essentially elevate the effectiveness of defense and offense. Alright, so that is for the joy of teamwork. And the last one objective of this sport, volleyball, is playing within the rules. The rules are intended to keep the game moving. That's why a team has returned a ball within 3 hits and players have to follow handling rules. If a ball is on player's hands for even a full second, it comes spinning out of her hand, it can be violation. A player also can run into the net, and any ball hit into the antennas and the ends count or point to the other team. Those and other rules force players to employ precision and timing along with the athleticism. So that's all for the objectives of this sport, volleyball. So we have playing within the rules, the joy of teamwork, making the points, gain and maintain control. Alright, so let's proceed.
Maligayang araw, I am Dionna Bruno from BSED second year science major, and I will discuss the origin of volleyball. So William G. Morgan, 1870 to 1942, who was born in the state of New York, has gone down in history as the inventor of the game of volleyball, to which he originally gave the name Internet. The young Morgan carried out his undergraduate studies at the Springfield College of YMCA, or the Young Men Christian Association, where he met James Naismith, who in 1891 had invented basketball. So after graduating, Morgan spent his first year at the Orvorm, Maine YMCA, which during the summer of 1895, he moved to the YMCA at Holyoke, Massachusetts, where he became Director of Physical Education. In this role, he had the opportunity to establish, develop, and direct a vast program of exercises and sport classes for male adults. So his leadership was enthusiastically accepted and his classes grew in numbers. He came to realize that he needed a certain type of competitive recreational game in order to vary his program. Basketball, a sport that was beginning to develop, seemed to suit young people, but it was necessary to find a less violent and less intense alternative for the older members. At that time, Morgan knew of no similar game to volleyball which could guide him. So he developed it from his own sports training methods and his practical experience in the YMCA gymnasium. So describing his first experiments, he said, in search of an appropriate game, tennis occurred to me, but his required rackets, balls, a net, and other equipment, so it was the head of an average man. We needed a ball, and among those he tried was basketball bladder, but this was too light and too slow. We therefore tried the basketball itself, which was too big and too heavy. In the end, Morgan asked the firm of A.G. Spalding on Bros to make a ball, which they did their factory near Chicop in Massachusetts. The result was satisfactory. The ball was leather covered with a rubber inner tube. Its circumference was not less than 25 and not more than 25 inches, and its weight not less than 9 and not more than 12 ounces, 252 grams and 336 grams respectively. So Morgan asked two of his friends from Holyoke, Dr. Frank Wood and John Lynch, to draw up, based on his suggestions, the basic concept of the game together with the first 10 rules. So early in 1896, a conference was organized at the YMCA College in the Springfield, bringing together all the YMCA directors of physical education. So Dr. Luther Halsky Group, director of the Professional Physical Education Training School, and also the executive director of Department of Physical Education of the International Committee of YMCA's, invited Morgan to make the demonstration of his game in the new College of Stadium. Morgan took two teams, each made up 5 men and some loyal fans, to Springfield, where the demonstration was made before the conference delegates in the East Gymnasium. Morgan explained that the rules and worked on them, then gave a handwritten copy to the Conference of YMCA Directors of Physical Education as a guide for the use and development of a game. The committee was appointed to study the rules and produce suggestions for the game's proportional teaching. A brief report of the new game and its rule was published in the July 1896 edition of Physical Education, and the rules were included in the 1897 edition of the first official handbook of the North American YMCA Athletic League.
History of volleyball. Where was volleyball born? On February 9, 1895, William G. Morgan created a sport he called Maranan. For those of who are up on your hopes, history, volleyball was invented just 4 years before William Morgan had in fact met basketball founder James Naismith. Not long before this, Morgan was a recent graduate of the International YMCA training schools in Springfield, Massachusetts, now known as Springfield College. In 1895, Morgan was working as a physical education director at the Holyoke YMCA. His intention was to create a sport that involved, unlike basketball, a strong athletic impulse but no physical contact. In other words, he wanted a sport that would entertain but also relax. To achieve these goals, Morgan combined elements from basketball, badminton, baseball, tennis, and handball. In fact, the first men's net was a standard tennis net, standing at only 6 high. Regulations high for a volleyball net is now 7 feet, 4'1" 8 inches for women and 7 feet, 11'5" 8 inches for men. At this time, players use a basketball or a basketball bladder. A ball specifically designed for volleyball will not be created until 19. Two friends of Morgan's, Dr. Frank Wood and John Lynch, drew up the first 10 rules based on suggestion from the founder. The new game was meant to be played in gyms or exercise halls, but could also be played outside. The equipment wasn't the only big difference between the game and the sport we now know today. An unlimited numbers of players could be on each side of the court at any given time. As for the name, Professor Alfred T. Hastel rechristened the sport as volleyball in 1896 based on his observation that the players volleyed the ball back and forth. As a result, the first official game of volleyball was played on July 7, 1896 at Springfield College. When was volleyball entered in the Olympics? In 1957, Indoor volleyball was then an Olympic sport by an International Olympic Committee, and in 1964, it was introduced at the Olympic Games in Tokyo. That's right, we're coming full circle with the 2020 Games. Heartwarming. However, as we've already reviewed, volleyball had existed at an international level for decades by the time the 1964 Games rolled around. It doesn't get more official, which was founded in France in 1947. Just 2 years later, the inaugural World Championships were held in Frankfurt. Aside from the launch of the first Pro Beach Volleyball Tour, 1984 is also a significant year as it was the first time that USA's indoor national team medaled at the Olympics. Suitable, those games were hosted in Los Angeles. This milestone in American sports history sets off a period of heightened popularity for indoor volleyball in the US. In 1996, the Olympics took place in the US again, this time in Atlanta. In that special year that we will cherish forever, two-man beach volleyball was officially introduced to the games. Other information about the history and volleyball. Today, there are more than 800 million volleyball players worldwide. Though both indoor and beach were born in America, just 46 million of those 800 million players are in the US. That's a huge testament to the power of these sports and the devotions it has inspired around the world since the beginning of the 20th century. To circle back to the Olympics, as we continue to find ourselves doing ahead of Tokyo 2020. And also beach volleyball is still going strong 33 years after debuting in Atlanta, with athletes around the world competing for coveted spots at the games right up through June 2020. This is a battle that will go down to the wire. As for top-notch beach volleyball in the US, you can find an AVP beach near you when we return for the 2020 season. Stay tuned. How did volleyball become international? Remember that specialty ball that had yet to be created. Let's fast forward to the turn of the century when it was obvious that the basketball wasn't going to do the trick. The ball had to be light enough to stay airborne, but heavy enough that it wouldn't get carried away from the wind or slow down the game. Morgan turned to AJ Spalding and Brothers, who created the ball with a trick rubber blader encased in subsequent layers of cloth and leather. It wasn't long before Morgan sport spread beyond by the YMCA's physical education. Directors adopting volleyball in all institution societies throughout the US, Canada. Canada was the first foreign country to adopt the game, and in many other countries, Japan in 1908 and the Philippines in 1910, plus Burma, China, India, Mexico, and nations in South America, Europe, and Africa. Volleyball was even included in the program of the first Far Eastern Games, held in Manila. The Philippines, in fact, were responsible for creating the standard of setting and the spiking in 1916. It was also the year when the net height was raised and the ball was made heavier. At that point, the Hispanic Volleyball Guide estimated that the number of people playing volleyball in the US had reached 200,000. Additionally, the YMCA and NCAA partnered to promote volleyball, resulting in the sport's inclusion in high school and college physical education programs across the country. In 1917, more change came with sets being played to 15 points instead of 21. Matches became best 2 out of 3. Then, the following year, the number of players per team was limited to 6. In 1922, 27 years after the foundation of the sports, the first YMCA National Championships were held in Brooklyn, NY. Fittingly, 27 teams competed. Further legitimacy came in 1928 when the United States Volleyball Association, or USVBA, was established by the YMCA to formalize and standards rules for the sports. The first US Open was held the same year with no YMCA squads invited to participate. Then finally, national volleyball refers were approved and recognized in 1934. And that's all. Thank you for listening.
Maligayang araw, I am Emmanuel from BSED, major in Values Education. So we will tackle about the facilities and equipments of volleyball. First, volleyball court dimensions. So the game is played on volleyball court 18 meters long and 9 meters wide. And it divided into two, 9 meters times 9 meters half by 1 meter. Wide net placed so that the top of the net is 2.43 meters above the center of the courts for men's competitions, and 2.24 meters for women's competitions. Second is the ball. Shall be spherical, made of flexible leather or synthetic leather cased with a bladder inside, made of rubber or a single material. Its color may be uniform light color or combinations of colors. Synthetic leather material and color combinations of ball used in international official competition should be comply with FIVB standards. So its circumference is 65 to 67 centimeters and weight is 260 to 280 grams. Next is volleyball nets. Volleyball nets are the primary obstacle and separating element between the two teams in a game of volleyball. Splitting the court down the middle, the height of the net dictates how teams will strategize their ball placement and set up offensive and defensive formations to successfully send the ball across the divider. Volleyball nets are typically made with a black nylon knitting with white headbands. So the net is placed in the center of the court, making each side of the net is 30 feet by 30 feet. Next is the post. The post is the supporting the net are placed outside the sidelines. They are 2.55 meters high and preferably adjustable. The post rounded and smooth, fixed to the ground without wires. Next is the antenna. Antenna is a flexible rod. So it is 1.80 meter long and 10 millimeters in diameter. An antenna is fastened at the outer edge of each side band. So the antenna are placed on opposite sides of the net. Each antenna extends above the net and marked with 10 centimeter stripes of contrasting color, probably red and white. The antenna are considered as part of the net and laterally delimit the crossing space. Next is the uniform or the clothing. A player's equipment consists of a jersey, shorts, sock, and sport shoes. The color and the design for the jersey, shorts, and socks must be uniform for the team, or except for the libero. The uniforms must be clean. The shoes must be light and pliable with rubber or composite soles without heels. Player's jersey must be numbered from 1 to 20. Next is the poles. Volleyball poles should be set at 36 feet apart, 3 feet farther out from the sidelines. Next is the ceiling height. The ceiling height, the minimum ceiling height should be 23 feet, though they should be preferable by higher. Next is the volleyball court lines. All lines are 5 cm wide. They must be a light color, which is different from the other color of the floor and from any other lines. Next is the boundary lines. 2 sidelines and 2 end lines mark the playing court. Both sidelines and end lines are drawn inside the dimensions of the playing court. Next is the center line. The axis of the center line divides the playing court into 2 equal courts measuring 9 times 9 meters each. However, the entire width of the line is considered to belong to both courts equally. This line extends beneath the net from the sideline to sideline. Next is the attack line. On each court on attack line, whose rear edge is drawn 3 centimeters from the axis of the center line, marks from the front zone. Next is the service line. A service line, the area from which the server may serve the volleyball, is marked 10 feet inside the right sideline on each back line. Next is the volleyball zones and areas. Front zone on each court, the front zone is limited by axis of the center line and the rear edge of the attack line. The front zone is considered to extend beyond the sides line to the end of the free zone. Next is the back zone. So, back zone is this where the defensive players stand, who are responsible for receiving most of the balls that come from the half of the opposing team. Next is the service zone. The service zone is a 9 meter wide area behind each end line. It is literally limited by two short lines, each 50 cm long, drawn 20 cm behind the end line as an extensions of the sidelines. Both short lines are included in the width of the service zone. Next is the substitution zone. Substitution zone is limited by the extension of both attack lines up to the scores table. Last is the libero placement zone. The libero replacement zone is a part of free zone on the side of the team branches, limited by the extensions of the attack line up to the end line.
Maligayang araw, I'm Gabriel Maranan from 2nd year BSED major in Science. And now I will discuss briefly the rules in playing volleyball. Of course, before we play volleyball or any sports and games, we must know the rules of the games. We should know how to play it, what things we should keep in mind so that we avoid violations. Now, let's start with states of play. In play. After the referee's whistle for service, the volleyball is in play once the contact for serve has been made. Out of play. The volleyball is out of play once a fault has occurred and it is whistled by a referee. The ball is in. The volleyball is in once it touches the court. The court's boundary lines are part of the court and are in. It means even if the ball touches the line, it is still in. The ball is out. The ball is out when the volleyball contacts the floor completely outside the boundary lines. Because when it touches the boundary lines, it is still in. But if it's completely outside the boundary lines, it's out. The volleyball touches an object outside the court, the ceiling or person that is out of play. The volleyball touches the ropes, antennae, post or net itself that is outside the antennae. The volleyball crosses the vertical plane of the net either partially or totally outside the crossing space, above or completely outside the antennae. The volleyball completely crosses this space under the net. Playing the ball. Each time must play within its own playing area. However, the ball may be played beyond the free zone. The free zone is the other side of the court. The volleyball may be retrieved from beyond the free zone if the surface change is less than 1.25 centimeters or 1.5 inch. The secondary surface is lower than the free zone and the area is free of obstruction. Playing a ball over a non-playable area. The player retrieving a volleyball over a non-playable area must be in contact with the playing surface when contact with the ball is made. In the rules of volleyball, non-playable areas are defined as walls, bleachers, or spectators' seating areas, team benches, and any area behind the team benches, an area between the scorer's table and team benches, any other area outlined by the referee in the pre-match conference. Contacting the ball. If a driver or net is separating courts, if a divider or net is separating courts, only the player making an attempt on the ball may move the divider or net to play the ball. When competition is occurring or is scheduled on adjacent courts, it is a fault for a player to enter an adjacent court to make a play on a ball after playing a ball. The free zone and the service zone on adjacent courts is a playable area. Team contacts. A contact is any contact with the ball by a legal player. A team is entitled to a maximum of 3 contacts. If a team contacts a volleyball more than 3 times without returning the ball to the opposing team, a 4 hits fault occurs. Consecutive contacts. A player may not contact the ball 2 times consecutively. It means if the ball comes to you, you receive the ball, and when you receive it, then the ball bounces, and you receive it again. It is fault. Simultaneous contacts. 2 or 3 players may touch the ball at the same moment. When 2 or more teammates touch the ball simultaneously, it is counted as 1 contact. Any player may play the next ball if the simultaneous contact isn't the 3rd team contact. If opposing opponent touch the volleyball simultaneously over the net and the ball remains in play, the team receiving the ball is entitled to another 3 hits. If such a ball goes out, it is the fault of the team on the opposite side. Assisting a player. A player is not permitted to take support from teammate or any structure in order to make a play on the ball. However, a player that is about to commit a fault may be stopped or held by a teammate. Assisting a player is when a player catching or receiving the ball and he needs to grab to something or to his teammates, and he grabs, for example, he grabs the pole and then he receives the ball. It's a fault. It's assisting a player. Characteristics of ball contacts. The volleyball may touch any part of the body. The volleyball must be hit, not caught or thrown. The volleyball may rebound in any direction. The volleyball may touch various parts of the body provided the contacts happen simultaneously. It is a fault when you receive the ball and when you catch the ball, or the ball stops on your hand or any part of your body. Playing faults. 4 hits. A team contacts the volleyball 4 times before returning it. Assisted hit. A player gets support from a teammate in order to make a play on a volleyball. This is what I explained a while ago. Catch. The volleyball is caught or thrown. It doesn't rebound from the contact. Double contact. A player contacts the volleyball twice, 2 separate attempts in succession, or the ball contacts various parts of the player's body in succession. Ball at the net. A ball sent to the opponent's court must cross the net in a crossing space. The crossing space is the part of the vertical plane of the net that is below by the top of the net and to above by the ceiling, at the sides by the antennae and the imaginary vertical extension. Ball and the net. The volleyball may touch the net while crossing it. A volleyball driven into the net might be played within the limits for the three team hits. If the ball rips the net or tears it down, the rally must be replayed. Player at the net. Player reaching across the net. A blocker may reach beyond the net provided they don't interfere with the opponent's play before or during the attack hit. After an attack hit, the attacker is permitted to pass his or her hand beyond the net, provided the contact has been made within their own playing space. Player under the net. A player can penetrate into the opponent's space under the net provided that this doesn't interfere with the opponent's play. When penetrating beyond the center line, to touch the opponent's court with a foot or hand is permitted provided that some part of the penetrating foot or hand remains either a contact with or above the center line. To contact the body with any other part of the body is forbidden. A player may enter the opponent's court when the ball is out of play. Player may penetrate into the opponent's free zone provided they don't interfere with the opponent's play. Player contacting the net. Contact with the net by a player is not a fault unless it's made during the action of playing the ball or it interferes with play. Some action in playing the volleyball include actions where players don't actually touch the volleyball. Once the player has hit the volleyball, they may touch the post, rope, or any object outside the total length of the net as long as it doesn't interfere with play. When the ball is driven to the net and causes the net to touch an opponent, no fault is committed. Playing faults at the net. A player touches the volleyball or any opponent in the opponent's space before or during the opponent's attack hit. A player penetrates into the opponent's space under the net, interfering with play. A player penetrates into the opponent's court. A player touches the net or antennae during the action of playing the ball or interferes with play. Let's go to the service. The service is the act of putting the volleyball into play from the service zone. Serving order. The first service of the first set and the deciding set is executed by the team determined by the toss. The other sets will be started by the team that didn't start the serve first in the previous set. Authorizing a serve. The first referee authorizes the server to serve after have checked the team are ready to play and the server is in possession of the volleyball. Executing a serve. The volleyball should be hit with one hand or any part of one arm after being tossed or released from one hand or both hands. Only one toss or release of the volleyball is allowed. Dribble or moving the ball around is permitted. At the moment of the serve contact or takeoff for a jump serve, the server must not touch the court or the ground outside the service zone. After the contact for serve, the player may step or land outside the service zone or inside the court. The entire service action must take place within the playing area. Screening. The players on the serving team must not prevent their opponent through individual or collective screening from seeing the server or the flight path of the volleyball. A player or group of players on the serving team make a screen by waving their arms, jumping or moving sideways, or by standing grouped together to hide the flight path of the volleyball during the execution of the serve. The factors to be weighed when judging the screen is being committed are relative position of the players on the serving team, path of the serve, speed of the serve, trajectory of the serve. Service faults. The following are serving faults even if the opponent is out of position. The server violates the service order. The server doesn't execute the service properly. Fault after the serve. After the ball has been correctly contacted, the service becomes a fault assuming there's no position fault if the ball touches a player of the serving team or fails to completely cross the vertical plane of the net through the crossing space, or if it goes out of play or passes over a screen. Attack hit. All actions which direct the volleyball toward the opponent, with the exception of serve or block, are considered an attack hit. During an attack hit, tipping the volleyball is permitted only if the ball is cleanly hit, not caught or thrown. An attack hit is completed the moment it completely crosses the vertical plane of the net or is touched by an opponent. Restrictions. A front row player may complete an attack hit in any height, provided the contact is made within the player's own playing space. A back row player may complete an attack hit at any height from beyond the front zone. At the moment of takeoff, the player's foot can touch or cross over the attack line. After a contact with a volleyball, the player may land in the front zone. Let's go to the last, which is block. Blocking. Blocking is the action of a player close to the net intercepting a volleyball coming from the opponent by reaching higher than the top of the net. Only front row players are permitted to complete a block. A block attempt is the action of trying to block without touching the volleyball. A block is completed whenever a volleyball is touched by a blocker. A collective block is executed by 2 or 3 players close to each other, and it is completed when one of them touches the volleyball. Consecutive contacts of the volleyball may be made by 1 or more blockers, provided the contacts are during one action. When blocking, a player may place hands beyond the net, provided this action doesn't interfere with the opponent's play. Thus, a blocker can touch a volleyball beyond the net until the attacker has executed the attack hit. Go to the blocking faults. The following are blocking faults. The blocker touches the ball in the opponent's space either before or simultaneously blocking the opponent's serve. The blocker touches the ball in the opponent's space either before or simultaneously with the opponent's attack hit. A back row player or libero completes a block or participates in a collective block, blocking the opponent's serve. The ball is deflected out of play of a block, blocking the ball in the opponent's space outside the antennae. That's all the rules that I can share to you guys. Thank you.
Hi, maligayang araw. Let's talk about the basic skills of volleyball. The first one is serving. A properly executed serve provides the serving team with a significant advantages over the receiving team. There are 3 serving styles in volleyball: the underhand serve, the overhand serve, and the jump serve. The next one is setting. Setting or overhead passing
There we have a few sets.
typically
Focus on the
is the
shape
second shot
where I
in
take the ball.
a 3-shot sequence. A properly executed set is placed close above the net. You want to place the ball up about 4 feet from the net, so on the third shot, typically a spike, your teammate won't hit the net on her follow through. The next one is passing. Passing is also known as bumping in an offensive sequence and digging when used to defend an offensive shot. Passing is executed by interlocking your fingers, holding your arms straight and away from your body. Make contact with the ball on your forearms and follow through to your target. The only allowable service return is a pass so it is frequently the first shot in a 3-shot sequence. The next one is blocking. Blocking is defensive play made close to the net. The object of a block is to deflect an offensive shot directly back toward your opponent. Block attempts can be made by individual players or pairs of players. Blocking is not allowed on service. Block often are utilized as a defense against kill shots. And the last one is hitting or the spiking. Generally, you want to hit the ball with the greatest force possible on the third shot of a sequence. When the ball is struck forcefully downward about the height of the net, it is referred to as a spike or a kill shot. To execute a kill shot, a player may use either a 2 or 3-step approach. Strike can strike the ball at the top of your vertical lip using the heel of your palm, followed by wrapping your hand on the ball with your fingers and snapping your wrist. That's all. Maligayang araw, everyone.
So, maligayang araw, I am Louis from Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Science. Now, let's talk about the benefits of volleyball. Volleyball can help you to circulate more blood and oxygen and nutrients into the body, as well as enhance your energy levels to improve your overall well-being. You can also develop your hand-eye coordination and fast reflexes. Volleyball helps you to learn to work with friends and teammates with a common goal. This makes you a sense of belongings and value. You learn how to work as a part of the team and learn how to work with others in attaining that goal. So now, what is the mental benefits of volleyball? Playing volleyball can help to boost your mood and increases drive to succeed. Your involvement in volleyball can improve your mood and reduce stress and encourage pride in your accomplishment as team members. The said activity can also improve your self-confidence and self-esteem. In general, playing volleyball helps you to burn calories, keep a toned body, heighten the body's metabolic rate, rejuvenate vital organ in the body, improve the social attribute of an individual, reduce the stress and anxiety levels, escape the risk of obesity and gathering body fat, improve muscles and nerve coordination, improve speed and agility, and last, improve physical function.
Maligayang araw, let's talk about the safety measure in volleyball. By the way, my name is Aiza Tejada from BSED Values Education. On playing volleyball, we need to make sure that our body is in a proper condition so that we should understand and know first the safety measures before we play the sport volleyball. Safety measure is a safe and healthy workplace not only to protect workers from injury and illness. Safety precaution and equipment can be instrument in preventing or lessening injuries from sport activities. The environment in which sports are played also has an impact on injury risk. Get a sports physical before starting any training program. Be in a good shape before playing volleyball. Always warm up and stretch before practice and matches. Use proper technique. If they are concerned about technique, a trained instructor can be helped. Stop training if they get injured or feel pain. They need to get checked by an athletic trainer, coach, doctor, or nurse before going back on the court. So now let's talk about the safety volleyball gear. Knee pads to protect the knees when sliding and falling. Padded short to protect the hips when driving for a ball. Other pads and braces such as elbow or forearm pads, ankle and wrist braces or thumb splints. Volleyball shoes for a good construction on gym floor and extra padding or comfort. And also the mouth guards to protect the teeth, lips, cheek, and tongue.